So understanding, hey, here's where rates are going, here's what's happening, here's the projections. Hey, you might want to wait when rates were at 7. Byron, we had that conversation right on this podcast, telling people that that's who's going to be the person that gets their unfair share of business in the current climate.
Well, saying it's always a good time to buy when on a Monday you could be at 7 and on a Friday in any given week you could be at 6. It's a little hairy of a position today. Now, and we've talked about this in the pod with really understanding, the mortgage products better than ever right now is an advantage as an agent because you put your clients in a position to save money. And then just talking to them about the long term. I shared this chart with both of you guys. And Cooper, if we could take a timestamp here and just put this up, the home price growth by months into the decade, seasonally adjusted Case-Shiller National Home Price Index. Lance Lambert put this together from Fortune. It shows you here the last 4 decades. And so the fear and uncertainty that these internet leads or any type of home buyer lead, especially a first-time buyer, because their uncle told them it's a bad time to buy. And I would agree that there have been better days to buy in 2023 than others if you're just riding the average interest rate and you don't have a specific product that's buying down. And you've got to really work with the knowledge broker, the professional, to put you in a best position right now to take advantage of this market with low inventory and volatile interest rates. But when we take a step back and really make sure that buyer, that lead, understands the long-term advantages to home ownership, the 1990s had 30.2% home price growth. The 2000s had 48.2%. And so every millennial or Gen Z buying right now that you're advising, when they talk about, well, 2008 is going to happen again. Yeah, well, do you know from 2000 to 2009, homeowners actually gained almost 50% equity? Yeah, for a couple years, it was over 80%. And then it cooled off during the great financial crisis, which is unlike anything we're living through today. So that decade, they gained 50%. They followed up the next decade, by the way, the 2010s, homeowners with 44.5% home price growth. And so far in the 2020s, we're at 39%. So if we're looking at a 10-year plan of home ownership, you're in a situation where you're going to get, likely 40% on your money. If you put the 1 to 2%, here's a big takeaway and something that agents should be talking about with their buyers more is if you put the 1 to 2% back into your home every year. If you've got a home that's worth $300,000, you should be putting $3,000 to $6,000 back into the home of general maintenance, because you don't want that call as the listing agent in 10 years and they put $0 into it, and then you have to have that conversation of, okay, you need $30,000 or $40,000 worth of work just to bring your home up to the standard, right? Because you didn't maintain the home throughout the year. Helping them understand that part of home ownership too is just as valuable as what you're going to naturally get on the growth curve of home price appreciation.
Well, and I in this kind of market, I've said this before. You got to have some like recession power rules for your business. First one is motivation matters. I mean that is a number one in any of these, because we've all transacted folks that they hear the data, they understand what's going on, they get the risks, and they say, hey, we're going to pull the trigger, regardless of the conditions, because they have a life event that's going on, and that's where nurturing leads, looking at a longer view of your funnel and realizing, hey, man, maybe it's not even a 90-day lead time anymore. Maybe it's 6 months is what I got to be focused on. Maybe it's a year. Someone tells you they're moving in a year and they got a home to sell. You better believe it. I'm following up with that person every couple of months, letting them know what's going on. And that's a skill that went by the wayside after the pandemic until, I would still argue right now, but at least people are starting to think that way.
A rule of thumb, if somebody says they're going to make a move, make a sale in a year, you always cut that in half. That means 6 months is likely when they're going to do it. And so to Tom's point about I'm following up every month, every 2 months, if someone's going to list in 6 months, you want to be in communication throughout the entire process of the next 6 months, because in 3 months, it's pretty easy to forget who you even are if you haven't spoken to them.
100%. I think also from the seller perspective, one of the things we're talking about is going back, and it falls right within that 6 month period, is the folks that had started expressing interest about selling in August and September, and then got really spooked by everything that happened with rates in October. And
Hmm.
I think that for the folks who have the knowledge and the ability to have really consultative conversations about the realities of the market, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity heading into the spring market with the folks who were giving it thought in August and September.
And Lisa, are you finding that those homeowners in August, September who got spooked because they're paying that much attention? Like if you got spooked in August and September, you're paying more attention than the average homeowner to economic conditions. When they come back right now, what I'm seeing is that the price in their head in a lot of markets that have this low inventory across the country, we're at about 3.5 months of inventory, but the Northeast, for example, is 2 months. And
Hmm.
and let us know in the comments what months of inventory is in your market and which market that would be. But they may be coming back to you with a price that's below what they could actually net. So they're actually coming if they're watching that closely to economic conditions, they're probably more conservative on price. And it's a delightful surprise that yeah, no, it's not 799, it's 850
Right.
on your house. That's a scenario with a past client of mine. I just had the discussion. He's like, I think we can get 8. What do you think? I said, I know you can get 850. And I think if we list it right there, we might find out that you have enough demand for maybe even a little more.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, same thing. We actually, case in point, we had a seller that had listed with another agent in September, pulled it off in November because they got spooked about where things were. When he pulled it off, it had been listed at 910. We put it back on at 975 and got over $1 million for a house that was just kind of sitting with nothing going on just a couple of months ago, right? So it exists.
It exists. And to Lisa's point earlier in the pod, that think about that. Just 6 months ago, a home listed at 910 was sitting, and then now listed at 975, sold over $1 million. It shows you that how quickly this market can change again, because we can go back to that scenario in quarter three, quarter four this year. I think we all have a feel of what quarter two is going to look like, but to predict quarter three, quarter four for your business or for your clients, it's going to be a really rocky place to try to make a prediction. And we could certainly see a slower market. So saving money, like Lisa said, and advising your clients on the urgency of today being a seller is the power position, showing them what the last 6 months of last year looked like. And if you wait too long in the spring, you could be in that quarter three bucket where we just don't know what it's going to look like for the certainty of your sale.